time for us to go inside the locker room with Nicholas Moreano. We were hearing from Flus. Nick was in the locker room, and I'll just toss it over to you right now, Nick. What was the biggest thing you saw, heard, experienced in this reaction, the players' reaction to losing a tough one tonight in Houston?
Yeah, I think some of the images that you guys were able to see just in the watching the TV copy of this game where Caleb Williams was kind of just sitting there, kind of soaking in the moment. Like he was like the same exact way at his locker for a little bit, where he took a little bit of time to go shower and he was just kind of sitting there, probably wondering what the hell happened. And I think that was almost a common theme from all the offensive players that I was able to hear from in the locker rooms. Like, what happened? A lot of I don't knows came from these players, whether it was DJ Moore, Tevin Jenkins, Braxton Jones, Coleman Shelton. And honestly, that's not what you want to hear. You want to hear some semblance of like an understanding of what's going on with this offense, but that seems to be like the common theme. We don't know at this point, but at the same time, feel like we're getting better at the overall like structure of things. So there's a little bit of everything going on right now.
I want to start with DJ Moore because he looked visibly frustrated on television, and so I'm just really curious what he had to say and what his attitude was like when you guys got to talk to him in the locker room.
Yeah, and I mean, he was the first one of the players that said, I don't know, when asked specifically what's most frustrating about the offense. I don't know, maybe everything. You say you just got to go out there and execute the plays that are called. That's another thing, too, that was now this is just me analyzing, going through and reading through or listening to the audio. Like, there almost seems to be like a question of play calling a little bit here. I heard it from a little bit from DJ, but also from Tevin, who's also saying something about the play calling. But yeah, DJ was one of those who just watching in the game, you guys, with my vantage point, like I got to see everything from when, it would be a 3-and-out or the ball wouldn't be completed his way. Like DJ did look frustrated from my vantage point up all the way up in the press box. Clearly that showed images of him frustrated on the sidelines, but I think that level of frustration definitely carried over into the locker room as well.
And you remember that interview you guys had at the Super Bowl with JSN? He said, "His mic's on." Oh, good luck with that. I really thought we'd see a lot different from Shane Waldron, just being Geno Smith's season where he really broke out. The season before that with Russell Wilson, where he had a great season. It just seems like it's not the same play calling that we saw those 2 years in particular. It seems like we're seeing a lot more of, it seems like Luke Getsy. Is that kind of what you were seeing, honestly? Like, it does seem a lot like what we saw in the past with Luke Getsy. A lot of screens, a lot of gun runs. Is that a little concerning for you?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I was just watching it, a lot of horizontal action going on. And I get it, like the offensive line wasn't protecting, and it's not like Caleb Williams had a bunch of time. But just one other observation I know, just when I'm looking at the sideline after every time this Bears offense goes out and doesn't, ultimately put a drive together, like Shane is so into his playbook. Like I'm trying to catch him and take a picture of him when he's trying to look up just at some point, but the dude is just literally in his playbook trying to find whatever answer that he's looking for, but the man never looks up. And I never got that picture because he's so focused in on the playbook. But to go back to the question, Corey, like, yeah, it did feel very Luke Getsy-esque, where there's obviously there's no rhythm. I can't tell you right now what the identity of this Bears offense is. They can't run the ball. You're trying to force, when Caleb Williams is in a bad situation to throw, there is no identity. And that's obviously a problem. It's only 2 weeks in, but still you would like to have known, like, what are the 2024 Bears going to be? After 2 weeks, you just don't know.
That's a interesting little nugget of good observation. He's just staring at that play sheet, because sometimes it just feels like, well, the next thing is this, versus like reacting to what exactly is happening out there.
That ain't going to give you the answers because obviously everything you're calling on there is not working.
Right. Nick, I guess the viewing tonight in the press box, you were close to Ryan Poles and Ian Cunningham. Can you share any of their reactions to the proceedings that we just witnessed?
Yeah, so how the NRG Stadium press box is kind of set up, like it's pretty open where, there's two levels where you have a lower level and I was at the top level. So, right at the back end, but Ryan Posey and Cunningham were a couple seats over to the left. So, anything they kind of said, you can like hear and things, but, you're focusing on the game. But, just one observation, like the throw that Caleb had to Rome, where it hits Rome in the hands and, Ryan Posey like hits the desk, like you got to catch that, like passionate with it, just from his vantage point. And then guys like that question, like the second, I believe it's the second challenge where the Kyler Gordon like interception where it clearly wasn't an interception, but it made it close. Ian Cunningham's like, did he throw that? And then it's like, who's in the press box or who's in the box? Like you guys are just talking about who's the guy up there telling him to challenge these plays. Like even they're questioning what's kind of going on with that, the whole optics there. So yeah, just kind of hear the raw emotion. But yeah, people are, wondering the same exact thing you guys are. Like who's in the box and telling this guy to challenge that because it clearly isn't a challenge.
Staley the Bear.
Staley, Staley wouldn't have
It
thrown
was
the challenge.
it was Virginia. Who do they have up
All
there?
right.
Seriously, how do I can do that gig for them? Go ahead, Greg.
Well, I want to talk about the offensive line because I know you talked to at least a couple of the O linemen. What I'm guessing they don't know the answers either. Otherwise they would play better. But what did they have to say?
Yeah, so I talked to Coleman Shelton, just me and him one-on-one for a little bit, and I asked him, what did this Texas defense do, like specifically when they were bringing stunts? Because I was tweeting out the whole entire game that the Bears didn't know how to pick up a stunt to save their life. But his answer in response to what the Texans defense presented, like really was just putting ourselves in a hole, have to eliminate third and longs, have to run the ball better. That won't allow teams to run every single game in the book on them. So a long-winded way of not answering, what the defense really was doing. So that's what he had to say there. And then I asked him, why hasn't the run game been clicking? Because clearly, DeAndre Swift, maybe he's thinking about the second-guessing signing here. He's got a good paycheck, but he's like, that's why we got to watch film, learn from each game. It's early in the season, still got time to figure it out. And the run game will help the pass game. So a lot of these no answers that I'm getting from, obviously an important part of this offensive line, Coleman Shelton, trying to help, get this thing on track. But not a lot there to really build upon. And again, it goes back to what I said in the beginning. Like, I don't think these players know, like, what exactly is the main problem. They can't pinpoint to one thing, but because it's probably multiple things right now.
Well, Roma Dunze was able to play through what we thought was an injury, earlier in the week that might have put him out for a longer period of time. If you had a chance to speak with him, did he talk about how he felt after the game physically?
Yeah, so he was asked specifically about that knee, the MCL sprain. He said he felt solid, and then there was a follow-up, not 100%, and he's like, I couldn't say. And that's where, like, we had to get out of the locker room. I mean, he sounded like it. Obviously, he came out of the game all right, but obviously not, 100% because he's still dealing with the injury. But, he was also one of those guys that felt optimistic about where the offense is going, knowing that they have so many playmakers. But, you would have really liked to see him come down with that catch. Even though the Bears did end up still scoring with the Khalil Herbert run, it would have been nice to see the 18-15 connection there in the end zone.
100%. I'm trying not to panic about that right now. He did have the 27-yard catch and run, which was nice because he needed something like that to get going. But so far, last week, he caught one pass on 4 targets for 11 yards. This week, 2 catches on 5 targets for 33. So that's 44 yards on 9 targets so far with only 3 catches. I mean, it's a little concerning. And I'm not putting that on Rome, really, as much just the whole thing, right? Like, I don't like the guys you're talking to, we don't really have the answers. Nothing looks like it's in sync right now. There was that one last that was the last play, wasn't it, where Caleb threw it to Rome on the right sideline, and I just don't have obviously knowing nothing about what was supposed to happen there, I would not understand any scenario in which Rome would still be running when it was 4th and 17. You needed 18 yards. We're well past 18 at that point. You need to turn around and come back to the ball, I'm assuming, because that seemed to be where the quarterback was throwing it to. Sideline, past the marker. Again, knowing nothing about the play design, where Caleb threw that ball seems to be where it should go in that scenario, and Rome was just like not even turned around yet. So and we saw that sometimes in training camp, Nick, where like they just didn't seem like they were on the same page from a chemistry standpoint yet. Obviously, you give that time. We're talking about 2 rookies in a less than ideal offensive situation right now. I'm not hitting the panic. I'm hitting the panic button on the O-line. I'm not hitting the panic button on Caleb and Rome yet. I just was hoping for a little bit more to this point than what we've seen.
No, I think all of us were expecting more from this entire offense, not just Caleb and Rome. When you have all these playmakers and DeAndre, I would have to go look at the stats really quickly, but it wouldn't surprise me if DeAndre Carter's still okay. He didn't have the most targets in this game. At one point, he did. It's like you have all these playmakers, but yet your third, fourth, wide receiver has the most targets in a game. It's like you can't have that happen. But that was one of the things that Rome also said. Like it's going to take time. They want to play complementary football, and they're going to have to be. The offense is going to have to back up the defense because knowing like how well the defense played, especially in the second half. Like, that's where the offense is supposed to step up. And they didn't obviously do it in week 1. Defense, special teams had to carry. And, the offense didn't show up on Sunday Night Football either. So it's definitely a work in progress as this entire unit, including the coordinators. And really quickly, guys, just because I think what Tevin said is where he's questioning the coaching a little bit because he was asked about why the protection hasn't been there. And he said, we get the call up front. We execute what we're being coached to do. We can only control so much. And maybe I have to go do a Mark Carman and overanalyze that part specifically. But it almost sounds like, Tevin is, questioning what is being coached and, how they're presented. Whatever the defense presenting, this is what we're coached to do. And if that's what we're coached to do, we have to just execute it. So I think it's fair too to question a lot of things that are happening offensively because things are just not working after 2 weeks.
Yeah, I just know that that's not the stuff you want to be hearing after week 2. That's my takeaway from that. Nick, great job. Everyone can read Nick's coverage from Houston on ALLCITY.com. A lot of great stuff. Also, go check out his film piece from last week as well. CHGO diehards can get that. You can follow him on Twitter at Nicholas Moreano. Safe travels home, Nick. And, we'll get this all figured out and fixed this week.
I'm sure we will. All right, you guys. See ya.
We all silly like the mayor.